Namaste, hello and welcome to NCERT's live phone-in program. My name is Tanvi Khurana and this is a session on social science for all the class 9 students. You're watching us on VmVideocon Channel number 9. Well, in this session we are going to talk about field work. Conducting field visits in social sciences, and this is the part 1 of this whole session. And what are field works? Well, just a brief introduction would be that this is something the researchers, the people who work on it, who do the field visits, they go outside and work there instead of working within the 4 walls of an office. Not a library, not a laboratory, but outside. So this is field work. But rest, I'll of course ask our experts. We have 2 experts with us, so let's meet them. We have Professor M.V. Srinivasan with us. Welcome, sir. Sir is from Department of Education in Social Sciences, NCERT. But we have one more expert with us, Mr. Daniel Sundaram. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir is a facilitator and outbound trip coordinator from Malya Aditi International School, Bengaluru. So both of them will be talking about field visits, and if you have any questions, please feel free to send it to us. ciet.kishoremanch@gmail.com is the email ID. You can send your questions over there, and if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, which is NCERT Official, in the live chat you can write your questions and submit. We'll get them instantly, and our experts, they'll be more than happy to answer all of them. So let's begin with the introductory part of field work. So Professor Srinivasan, can you please explain what are field works?
Yeah, see, the field work is basically going to the space which is widely open. It could be considered called something outside the school system, something outside the classroom mainly. If you look at our schooling system in India, maybe a few years before, till few years before, field work is supposed to be meant for higher education institutions. Right. If you look at the origin of the field work, it started with the sociology. The sociology students used to go out, and a specific field called anthropology, people used to go stay there for months together, collect details, come out with the report. And then if you look at recently in the school system also, you will find that only in the last 50-60 years, many countries also started talking about field work, because we need to emphasize children need to understand. True. And field work is also, if you look at the historical origin, the Indian education system, or for that matter, the Eastern schooling system, is mainly memorizing, recalling, reciting. That was considered as a schooling actually. The opportunity for the experiencing, the opportunities for the understanding was a bit limited actually. But if you look at recent developments in the education research, and it was felt that children also need to experience many things actually. If you look at social science as such actually, earlier we used to have topics called history and civics. And in those topics, children used to learn all the things from the teacher alone. She used to be the knowledge, she is the knowledge possessor. And there was no need for going outside the classroom if you want to know anything about curriculum, syllabus, what is there in the textbook. Right. But today things have changed, and teacher's role has become facilitator. And in that case actually, the curriculum also changed in such a manner that many topics, for example economics, geography, and many other fields have started making a lot of inroads into the school curriculum. So for understanding about various social science concepts, children need to experience it actually. Children, when they study science, when they study languages, they have the opportunity to experience within the classroom. For example, you know that children are doing a lot of experiments in science laboratories, and small experiments in the classroom itself actually. Whereas if you want to understand about social science, you need to go out of the classroom. So that is how the field work emerged as a major domain in the school system.
Okay, so the field work is not limited to social sciences now.
Yeah, if you look at today, if you many ideas, many topics are also in sciences. Children go out and experience it actually. Right. For example, if you want to know about birds, if you want to know about animals or plants, these days children go out, experience it actually. True. So we are discussing here about how this field work has emerged as a major important activity in the school system and with regard to social science curriculum.
Okay. So is there any scope to conduct field work as part of the social sciences?
In fact, the meaning of social science itself is, if you define what is social science, it is about understanding society. So understanding society means we all live in the society, we need to understand how it functions. We also have to learn many ideals, cultural practices, symbols that are used in the society. For that, we need to provide opportunities for the children. That's how the need for the field visit has emerged. If you look at curriculum as such, actually from class 3 onwards, children are introduced to the basic ideas of social sciences. For example, children, if you look at class 3 textbooks, class 4, class 5 textbooks, you will see children were asked to collect details from the family, who are the family members, what is the relationship with the family members, how family members function. Children are also asked to collect details about their locality, what is there in the locality. If you look at like very interesting thing that if they get time, they can watch something called Young Historians. Children are also going to the villages, they collect details. For example, I watched some time back in a documentary called Young Historian, in which children go to a village and talk to people who were freedom fighters. So they were also talking about, they were trying to understand about how the village function. And there were wells, there are many historical places available, villages actually, the rural areas. So in the primary class itself, children started experimenting the field work actually. Okay. In classes 6, 7, 8, if you look at, for example, in class 6 in history, children learn about ancient India. And then in 7, they learn about medieval India. In both these sections of history, children go to many monuments, historical monuments, museums. So every district in India has museums. So children do field visit by going to the museum. So museums become major source of learning these days actually. I have seen in many other countries also, even in India also, when I visit a museum, I can see families taking the children to the museum and they draw. I can also share in some other time how children learn about various concepts of social sciences in the class 6, 7, 8 when they go to museums.
Okay.
And 9th and 10th, if you find a major children grow, and many of you viewers are all in class 9th and 10th, you are all adolescents now, and you may be understanding many concepts in social science much better than when you were in class 6, 7, 8. In this period, and the fieldwork becomes, it gives you more very high level of understanding, and I'm sure that if you look at the syllabus of class 9th and 10th, topics like geography, we learn about Indian geography. For example, if you want to know about cropping pattern in India, you have to go to village. Unless you put your hand on your soil, you cannot understand the soil types. Or unless you just pluck some plants, you cannot understand the cropping pattern of Indian agriculture. So the 9th and 10th gives lots of scope for going to the field. And then in case of 10th also, like if you, in topics like where I am getting specialized, in economics also, you find children go and collect data from the consumers. So the children are experiencing marketplaces as consumers, so they collect data on how the consumer rights is been implemented in field setting. So the 9th and 10th, it gives a lot of scope for conducting field visits, and many boards like CBSE also allocated marks for conducting, like for example, it is called subject enrichment activity. And then where the children are conducting study summit projects. So 9th and 10th, it gives a higher exposure when compared with the lower classes. That's how you see the lot of scope for conducting field visit in school system.
Okay, okay. And the earlier times, the fieldworks were not that important, and now there's a drastic change. So
yeah,
it has become an important part in the school system.
It's also because of the policy documents. If you look at the National Curriculum Framework 2005, says that please connect school curriculum with life outside school system. Many studies conducted in the past shows that when children are not able to experience, make a sense of what is there, what is happening, what is given in the textbook, there is a sense of alienation. For example, Khaka from the Delhi University, retired professor, he conducted a study among these tribal children, why they become dropped out. One of the reasons is that the curriculum that is taught in the school system about the science or mathematics or social sciences, they were not able to get associated actually. Whereas the tribal children, what the kind of amount of knowledge that they possess about the plants, animals, crops, and the livelihood patterns, enormous knowledge, but that is not found in the textbook. That was the one reason the Ishwal committee said that the textbooks are becoming incomprehensible. and we need to provide more exposure to the children. That is why one of the 5 guiding principles of National Curriculum Framework 2005 is that please connect life outside the school system with the life within the classroom. Given that guidelines, you find social science textbooks, which are behind my side. You can see these social science textbooks give a lot of exposure to the field. In fact, one of the reviewers of the social science book said that, lots of villages are appearing in these textbooks. Actually, why it is so? So, major departure took place in 2005. That's how you can see that the relevance of the field visits in secondary level, actually.
Okay. I have some questions to Mr. Sundaram as well. Sir, so can you explain that how can one conduct field visits within the school system, and also because it's a field work which we do outside the 4 walls of any office or place or any place. So can you share some examples as well to make it a little more understanding?
Sure, I'll be happy to do this. Well, firstly, welcome viewers. Hope you are having a great time and staying safe out there during this time. What I put together is a few images, actually quite a few images, and I'd like to take you through this journey of a field trip that I did with my students. By I mean our school and the teachers that came into planning it and all of that. I'm based in Bangalore, and this little study that we did, we had a lot of planning with a team of teachers that teach grade 9. We just wanted to do something different. So for our viewers, I just want to walk you through our journey, and hopefully the teachers and students feel just as engaged and interested in this virtual field trip. We will soon be out there in the field, but for now, Silk Routes. Also, just an announcement, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat window. I think our anchor will relay it later, and we'll have time for questions later. Here's a beautiful quote. I'm just going to let you read this. So this gives you an idea.
Would you like to read it aloud?
Yeah, that's a good
Do you want me to read it? Sure, I could. A silk caterpillar weaves a beautiful thread around itself, its home. Only from leaves it's eaten and its saliva, at room temperature, with no added chemicals, no want for external energy. And what do we do with this thread, and how? So here is our little story, and this is what I want to share with you. So in Bangalore, we realized that very close to us, we have a really large place where they grow mulberry, and it's been established during the time when Tipu Sultan was here, so long back ago, and it was all to do with sericulture. Now, why are we learning about this? Now, in your syllabus in the NCERT, I know it does connect to topics like drainage and climate, natural vegetation, wildlife, population. Under the economics, it can be the story that you usually study about a particular village, Palampur, I think. Then you have people as a resource, poverty as a challenge. Under the history, you study forest, society, clothing, peasants and farmers, parts of these, right? Now, this one field trip kind of addresses all of these topics, and that's what's brilliant about a field trip, right? So here's where we went. We tracked this on a GPS, and so it's not too far away from our school. It took us 40 minutes, a nice drive to this place called Devanahalli. For those of you familiar with Bangalore, it's just beyond the airport. Lovely little town, established long ago. And that's where we went. We went to Mr. Krishnappa's farm. This kind of gives you the idea of what the layout was like, right? Zooming in a little bit more so you can see what we did there. You get an idea of the space, very important. We get an idea of this space. And then we did an impromptu land use map. Just to understand the place better, we got on the floor. We didn't need books, we didn't need pens, we didn't need anything, right? We had chalk, we had stones, whatever we found around. And just to understand the space better, not just us, but also Krishnappa and the other people who were around, we kind of used. And this is something you can do anywhere, on any field trip, without the need of any resources. And then eventually you can turn it into this. So the students come together and work in groups, and you turn it into something as wonderful as this. To give you an idea of the space, you understand the space better. Here is what the space looked like. And we gave the students this, and we said, hey, instead of me telling you everything, why don't you come and tell us? So we gave them different spots in the field, and we said, let's use your senses. Use your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Touch the mulberry. What does it feel like? Taste, well, there was nothing really there to taste. But yeah, some of them who were bold enough did taste the mulberry leaves. And then finally what they feel or experience. So a lovely tool that you can design and give the students. And students, you can do this yourself in any place that you go for a field visit. We also gave them a few more ideas. For those of them who had phones, we said add a picture or add video or anything else for that matter you would like to add. This is one student's work, right? Now the good part with current day technology is she was able to get down details that she found out, and she was able to add a picture right there and make a document, so much so that when we reached back school, the document was kind of almost ready. So let's use these technologies that we have to our benefit. But more importantly, it's the questions that come, right? You're just there in that space, and this person has just cut the mulberry leaves, which they found out, and he was walking off, and so they were inquisitive to know, where are you going with it? So interaction with the farmer, finding out what type of mulberry, are there types of mulberry, how long does it take to grow, what is done with the mulberry. So here you can see there's a machine that's kind of chopping it up, making it smaller, and for what? You'll soon see it's for the silkworms, right? And that's what they eat, that's their favorite food. All of us love silk. We love wearing silk shirts, silk saris, and now it's even in jewelry design. So here is how our students interacted. Now, being from the school, not everybody knew Kannada. They didn't know a local language, right? So how did they interact with the people around? They started drawing a diagram, and they said, this is what my day is like. What is your day like? So they wanted to find out, in fact, how the person who was chopping up all the leaves, what was his day like? What does he do, right? The person who was in the field, what is his day like? So since they couldn't communicate very clearly, they used these tools, what we call PRA tools, participatory rural appraisal. So language doesn't become a barrier. They're using visuals, right? So this is a great idea, something that you can use on field trips. So then they realized that, hey, there are different kinds of mulberries, some that you can eat, some that you shouldn't eat. And this is what they do with that mulberry. They chop it up finely so that the silkworms can actually eat it. And I know you're wondering what this is. Well, it's just cut up leaves, but if you look closely, there's something on it. Silkworms, right? And we'll go through this entire wonderful journey. For those of you who are thinking, oh, worms, hey, guess what it eventually becomes? Wonderful cloth and thread, and you'll see it, right? So look at it at day 2, look at it after 8 days,
hello, Daniel.
Look at it,
yeah,
how it becomes eventually.
Hello, Daniel. Before, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before this, the worms, there are also eggs, no? The eggs, can you just share something about how these eggs, from where eggs can be purchased, how they are, from where they are available?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking that question, sir. So in fact, the students had this exact same question. How do the worms come? Where do they come from? And you are going to be surprised. You're actually going to see. Now this place, the whole entire region of Devanahalli and Shigalghatta and all the regions around has this entire setup, and it's wonderful. So I'm going to actually show you all of these processes. Yeah. Here again, just taking you through some of the students' work that they put through. And they asked again one of the questions, what do they do with the waste? And they had cows there which would actually feed off the mulberry, right? So they kind of realized that it's a very sustainable system. There was no waste really. The dung from the cow would feed, would add manure to the land, and the leftover silkworm leaves that the silkworms wouldn't eat were fed to these cows. So very sustainable. Somebody else, sorry about that star, students' faces, you know how that is. They were gathering temperature, humidity data just to find out, because they wanted to know does mulberry grow round the year? When does it grow? How well does it grow? So on and so forth. They were interviewing experts as well. They kind of made a mini chart as to when Mr. Krishnappa particularly harvests and when he sows, because we were looking at this as a primary data kind of a project. Yeah, so look at these worms, and in 2 weeks, how big they become. But like Dr. Srinivas, the question he asked, where do these worms come from? Why do some look so different? So many questions they started to have, right? And then the person brought out this cocoon, and he cut it open, and he showed us the worm, the smaller worm that you saw came from this. And then they said, oh, how does the worm form? How does a cocoon form? So suddenly, just by seeing all this, there were so many questions. So here, this is something one of the students again put together, but I'm going to take you backwards. Yeah, so we started with the worm, and we're going towards the cocoon. Then we're going to come back and look at how it actually forms in the egg, so on and so forth. So this is something they call a chandranki. Very interesting design again. Some students have the question, why is it circular, concentric? Why not spiral? You know, so many questions started coming up. And this is a beautiful setup. Here again, economics, right? Who are the people making it? When is it required? Is it on sale? Is it for hire? How much does it cost? How many cocoons per trellis or per chandranki? So many questions the students started asking. And then they actually got to see this firsthand. How are the worms? You saw the worms. You saw the process from the mulberry leaf to the small worm, big worms. Now they're ready to start spinning their cocoon. You know the process. So then there's biology involved. So notice how this whole field trip is an integrated process. There's an image of it actually starting to spin its cocoon. I won't take you through the students' work. This was a project that they had, and they wanted to find out which chandranki would work best, which design would work the best. So we let them go on various instances and various things that they can actually proceed. So Dr. Srinivas had asked earlier, how do these eggs come? Where do they come from? Where do these moths come? So look at that process, right? You can see, this again is run by Mr. Krishnappa. You can see moths, yeah? So these are silk moths, the Bombix moths. And very interestingly, they are kept in some sort of captivity. They lay eggs on that, up to 400, 600 eggs even in one small square after mating. And the whole process is so interesting. You have to watch this yourself and look at the design of the silkworm as well. I mean, it can't fly. So it's engineered by us. It's not nature. So there were questions about nature versus nurture. Have we done this to them? Why is the color so dull? So on and so forth. So several questions. An image of the eggs that they lay in the squares. On the first few days, eventually it turns gray. Eventually they become worms, and eventually they start eating the leaves that you saw. These are the males. Yeah, they get a second shot, they're refrigerated, and they go back and they mate again, and then they produce more eggs, so that we have more worms and more cocoons and more silk. So industrial setup, economics, biology, space, geography, everything's kind of coming together. Very controlled environment, specific humidity, specific temperature, all those have to be maintained. And you can see how they're stored. Some call it cruel. Some call it a way of life. That's their livelihood. That's how they earn. And it's an eye-opener when we go on a field trip like this. This was again a student's work, just finding out about what can be done. This is Mr. Krishnappa's nephew. He was just explaining to us the different kind of cocoons that were there. He had the yellow one and the white one. Very interesting. This guy is actually sorting out the male and female cocoons based on weight. And there's a little video, but I didn't add the video here. Very quickly, just by a few grams, the females weigh heavier, the males weigh lighter. Another interesting place here. There's actually an auction house that was set up a few tens of years ago. And this is how they place their bids. And this is the place, this is what it looks like. On a daily basis, there's tons and tons of cocoons actually that get sold. Transportation. Look at how the cocoons to this day are being transported with this super heavy weight that this person takes on his head and actually transports it to different people. This is in the Devnahalli village.
Mr.
Am I out of time? Yes.
Sir, that's a wonderful research you were sharing with us, but actually we have got 4 minutes left and we've got a couple of questions from our audience's side as well. So, should I ask?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, yeah, there's Vanshika and she's asking what is the need of field work, which you have vaguely answered, and she's also asking, is there any field work system particularly in India as well?
Yeah, see, universities are conducting fieldwork in a manner. It is part of the curriculum actually. In the school system also, for example, children are expected to do field visit and submit a report.
Right.
Okay. And field visit, if you look at the way the Daniel was presenting about sericulture, we are halfway through. The rest of them, maybe the next part we will be explaining these things actually. And field visits give exposure to the understanding about the society and many concepts that we are studying in the classroom that can be applied in the society. So children can see, for example, if you want to see how the this particular project that Daniel was explaining, it tells you the mathematical component, how we have to calculate in terms of designs. So a lot of mathematics is also involved, a lot of science is involved, biology, and he was telling, and a lot of economic components are also involved, a lot of geographical component. Soil is very important for cultivating sericulture, the trees, the mulberry plants. So interdisciplinary way of understanding about the society, the interdisciplinary way of understanding about science concepts. So the major purpose of field visit is that we can understand the concepts that we are learning in curriculum in the daily life. Okay. That's the major purpose of the field visit. That's how it is getting more and more popular in many schools. They conduct field visits actually. Okay.
So one audience, one person, he's asking that this field work was adopted to social sciences and all other subjects as well to make the teaching of these subjects more interesting.
It gives, Daniel, you will be, you can explain yourself. How do you feel when you take the children to the school?
Right. So just when to understand that question again better, how do we engage the students in school? Is that the question?
Yeah. What is the use of field visit? How, as a teacher, how you feel when you went with the children to the Devanapalli and the field area?
Well, guys, I should tell you, firstly, for us, the teachers, it was an eye-opener. And then you see the students interacting with that space. There's just no comparison to the kind of experience, the kind of knowledge they receive, the kind of sensitiveness that they receive. It just completely opens up a whole new world to them. They suddenly start understanding concepts so much more better in a very integrated manner. And for us, putting down all this learning in the class just doesn't compare. In fact, I'll just end with this quote because what's his name, Mr. John Lubbock said, earth and sky, woods and fields, lakes and rivers, mountains and the sea are excellent schoolmasters and teach all of us more than ever we can learn from any kind of books. So the experience is just out there.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for being here, for sharing your wonderful experience, and the field work you showed was wonderful. Absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Tanu.
Professor Srinivasan. Thank you to both of you for being here, for sharing your experiences and for explaining the concept of field work to our students and the viewers as well. Thank you.
On 20th, we are going to have the next part. That's also very important. Children have to reserve this date for knowing more about the field visit.
Absolutely. So keep your questions ready for the next part as well. There's more about field work which will be coming on 20th, like sir said. All right. We're wrapping up this session, but don't go anywhere because we're coming back with a maths session in a few minutes, and the topic is going to be surface areas and volumes. So stay with us and keep on enjoying these sessions which are based on various topics and on various subjects. So thank you so much once again. Namaste.